Okay, so I did have time to do one more. This one is actually another video request from Anissa Jackson. So I hope I said that right. Uh, Thanks, Anissa, for putting this forward. So this one, again, there is quite a bit of interest on the romantic or relational side of INTJs, and I can get it because it is a bit of a quandary for us to try and navigate, especially when sometimes it feels that other people are a little bit more savvy, at least in my personal experience. So this one was on INTJ romantic relationships and vulnerability. So I like this one because it does speak to a lot of the underlying themes that we've either discussed or have been brought forward from different comments just regarding this whole navigation of relationships. So I'm going to speak to the vulnerability side in a couple different ways. So the vulnerability, as I spoke to in another video previously, the idea of the emotional, just not having that ability to show emotion quickly, or as quick as, say, the standard individual in relationships would do, tends to have a problem with exploring a relationship further on either side because of misunderstandings. So the vulnerability piece, I personally, I won't give when you're first in a relationship. Personally, on my side, both in romantic and friendship relationships, there's a certain amount of information that you are happy to give. And I always go by the precept, both in this and in my professional life, that if I can say it to you, then I am okay that anyone else can say it after I said it. So the point of what I'm trying to get at is, once it's out there, it's out there, so you can't control it. And the idea of, say, gossip or that type of thing. So hedging your bets on being vulnerable as a reputational piece for myself is tantamount. So the vulnerability going into a relationship, or even just a superficial interaction, you want to show that you are providing a certain piece of yourself to the other individual and telling maybe anecdotes of your life. But for myself as an INTJ, I rarely would see myself in a position that I would ever offer up anything that is not something that I can speak to after. And that certain people, and that's going to be good. That'll be enough, and that's great, and that'll be the establishment of the relationship moving forward, especially for, say, acquaintances and that type of thing. For myself as an INTJ female, if that's where the relationship ends, if I was in, say, a romantic interest, that would just cut out pretty quick, because there's no more introspection, there's no more diving into who that person is or who I am, and going through and understanding a little bit more of the guts of each other. So that would pretty much end that. But what I found is, say you get into the vulnerable side. So say you've worked through, I'm going to call it the dance, because it kind of is. It's annoying, and if you for myself, like, I've actually taken a look at it both in close friendships as well as relationships. There is a sort of give and take that comes. It's not just easy. Like, for myself, you are understanding there's a breathing room, and then coming back and getting to know each other more, and then taking time to understand what was processed and seeing how that rapport is building. So once you get to the point of being able to be vulnerable with somebody, and again, I'm just saying this generically because, yeah, spouses or significant others, you will get to the point where you're vulnerable. But I think for myself, true friendships get to that point too. They get very, that person is part of your, well, my kids call it the OG, the original group. I have no idea what that like comes from, but the mindset of once they're in, and you just pick up wherever you left off. And that's the part of the intimacy that comes with going through the background and building that stable foundation for being able to express vulnerability at a moment's notice. Because for myself, if I have to sit and walk through something when I'm being overtly upset, that I have to give them context on more details than I am going back to my logic brain, and I'm not using the emotions that need to get out in something that is hitting me in a very primary way. So getting also to the vulnerability piece, one of the tough things I find for myself as an INTJ is that the vulnerability thing, once you have trust established with your like either your close friends or your significant other, for myself, I take it as it's done. Like everything's been figured out. We know who each other are, and I know the good, the bad, the ugly, and even if I don't know all the details, I know that person. I know his or her values and what they are deep underneath. I don't need to know every detail about them, but I need to know that repetitive patterns have shown me that this personality trait is consistent constantly in this individual. Therefore, I can provide more or feel more trust and therefore be more vulnerable because I've seen it over and over again. So the difficulty is when inevitably no one has a perfect relationship with anyone, something could happen, and sometimes it can be quite catastrophic. For myself in vulnerability, so once I become vulnerable in the way that I trust someone, I've turned off the skeptic mindset and turned off the investigator in myself, and I've just become true compatibility. And it's a fantastic thing. However, for myself, if I get blindsided by someone who, say, does something that goes completely against what I thought this person was, especially if you've known that individual for years or had a very intimate relationship for a very long time and you had zero idea that that piece would even be in the picture. There's almost a visceral reaction for myself. Like I feel like my ears actually get like a white noise and the blood drains from my head. It's basic shock, but it snaps you right back into being a logical thinker, and you're doing a logical thinking process on top of an emotional shock because you're seeing disparate vantage points, things that you've already established are true to that person as characteristics are actually now not because of certain actions. And that causes, for myself, the vulnerability to be so if it's something that I have established a very long history with that person, I'll try to figure out what happened because I don't see the need just to cut and take off when it's something that, okay, I think maybe that was something that was needs more clarification or whatever. But I find it's very difficult for me to build that trust piece back up after vulnerability has been established and then compromised. And so I'm interested to hear what other people have to say. If there is other additional pieces that people are interested in regarding, say, the concept of vulnerability, because that is something that maybe some of us are struggling with more than others, please leave the video request in the comment section. But yeah, it's a great topic. So thanks, Anissa Jackson.